From homeless to millionaire, the inspiring journey of a Black man, Rafael Johnson's name echoed through every corner of the city. A millionaire by the age of 35, he seemed untouchable, an unstoppable force. But no one knew the wild, twisted path he'd traveled. The story, whispered in hushed tones, was stranger than fiction. Once, Rafael had nothing. No home, no family, just the cold streets and the ache of hunger gnawing at his bones. But then, out of the blue, he vanished from the grit and grime, only to reappear years later, draped in tailored suits, stepping out of sleek black cars, surrounded by murmurs of mysterious deals and secret meetings. How did a homeless man become a business titan overnight? Some said he had hidden allies. Others claimed he struck deals with the shadows themselves. His past was a locked vault, but rumors pried the door ajar. Stories floated around hospitals, too. Strange stories. Like the night his young son, Pierre, was rushed in, pale and trembling, hooked to machines blinking with desperate light. And there, in the sterile chaos, emerged Janine, a captivating woman no one expected to see. Homeless. Beautiful in a way that made you stop and stare. Covered in worn layers, but with eyes full of fire and kindness. She cradled Peter like he was all the world, softly whispering words no one else could hear. Raphael's fists clenched, his heart pounding in his chest, not from gratitude, but from rage. How dare this stranger touch his son? What right did she have? His world spun out of control as he wrestled with a storm inside, a blend of pride, fear, and unbearable pain. But from that desperate midnight, a fragile, unexpected spark grew between Janine and Peter. Something real, something pure. The city buzzed with gossip as Rafael made the hardest choice of his life, offering Janine shelter, a shot at rebuilding what life had stolen from her. The tension thickened, family against heart, loyalty battling hope. Rafael's inner war became a knife, twisting deeper with each heartbeat. Could he protect the boy and the woman who cared for him? Could he break free from the chains of expectation and judgment? Meanwhile, Janine fought her own demons, clawing her way back into a world that had long shut its doors to her. With every step forward, her bond with Rafael deepened, moving from unspoken understanding to something that hinted at love, fragile but fierce. Just wait. The stakes rose. Hearts trembled. Choices loomed like thunderclouds ready to crash. And in one quiet, breath-held moment, Rafael stepped forward, not with money or power, but with a simple, raw truth, a humble proposal that redefined everything. Family wasn't about perfection. It was about fight, about scars showing, hands reaching out even when fear screamed to pull away, about being real when the world demanded fake. The question hung heavy in the air. Could this fractured, unpolished family stand strong against the storm? Could love born from loss and grit survive the chaos that threatened to swallow it whole? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss out on any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Rafael stood there, the words hanging heavy, his heart racing against the backdrop of a buzzing hospital. The air felt thicker now, charged with uncertainty, fear, and an unexpected twinge of hope. Janine's eyes burned into his, searching for assurance. But in that moment, he could offer none. They were teetering on the brink of something big. Just then, the doors swung open with a violent swing, and the chaotic clatter of nurses echoed in the sterile hall. Rafael turned, his heart thudding like a drum. A paramedic rushed in, breathless, his face pale as a ghost. "Wait, the family of Peter Johnson!" he yelled. The urgency rattled through Rafael's bones. "I'm his father." Rafael stepped forward, his pulse quickening. "Then you need to see this, now." The paramedic thrust an envelope into Rafael's shaking hands. The moment Rafael read the name scrawled across the front, anguish pierced through every layer of resolve he had built. No, it can't be. He stumbled backward, the truth crashing into him like a tidal wave. The envelope was from Peter's biological mother, and inside, a crumpled newspaper clipping spun out, each word slashing at his heart. Local hero acquitted of murder. Rafael Johnson found innocent. His vision blurred. Rafael's legs felt like jelly. The world around him spun dizzying circles. "What is this?" he gasped. Janine's hand gripped his tightly, her voice trembling. "Rafael, what does it say?" He couldn't answer. Memories flooded back. Years spent trying to forget. The accusations that had driven him to the streets. The case hadn't been open for years. It was shut. Or so he thought. Now a dark specter from his past was resurfacing, ready to tear apart everything he had built. Across the waiting room, Amanda's cold gaze sharpened, cutting through the chaos. She stepped closer, her face flush with triumph. "I knew it. I knew there was something off about you. All this time, pretending to be a millionaire when you were nothing more than a thug." "Shut up!" Rafael shouted, a mix of fear and fury coursing through him. The secret he had buried so deep, the shame that clung to him like a shadow, was out in the open. In her eyes, however, was a flicker of confusion. "This is your moment of truth, Rafael. Who will you choose to be now?" Janine pulled Rafael to her, shielding him from Amanda's piercing words. "We will figure this out together," she whispered fiercely. But then, from the shadows, emerged a figure Rafael knew all too well. A tall man with scars etched on his face, the very ghost of Janine's past, the ex who had haunted her every step. He strolled forward, an ugly grin spreading across his lips. "Did you miss me, love?" he mocked. The tension thickened. Janine's grip on Rafael tightened, her fear palpable. It was clear. Her past had come crashing into their fragile new world, ready to wreak havoc. "Get away from her!" Rafael roared, stepping in front of Janine. But the smile on the man's face only widened as he pulled out a piece of paper, waving it like a banner. "Let's talk about family, shall we?" And in that flash, everything shattered. Relationships warped. Long-buried secrets bubbled to the surface. The very definition of family was about to be rewritten in ways they could never have imagined. Rafael's gut twisted with dread and disbelief. People buzzed around them, muttering gasps and whispers. Their families intact, in stark contrast to this spiraling nightmare. Could a love born from pain survive? Could a father's fight against his demons withstand the storm? The room held its breath, the future hanging on the edge of a knife. Rafael's heart hammered against his ribcage, each beat echoing in the shocked silence of the hospital room. The reality of Amanda's words twisted like a knife in his gut. He couldn't breathe. The room felt stifling, hot. Janine's grip on his arm tightened, her pulse racing alongside his. "Stay back!" Rafael shouted, feeling the crowd's curious stares prickling his skin. Amanda relished the chaos, eyes glinting like knives. "You should have known this would catch up to you, Rafael. You're just a phony with a pretty little life built on lies." "Enough," Janine's voice cut through the madness. "What do you want?" The ex stepped forward, taunting, a smirk curling at his lips. "I just wanted to remind my girl." He shot a glance at Janine. "That family isn't just who you choose. Sometimes it's who you're born into." Rafael stepped closer, fists clenched. "You don't scare me." The words were strong, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. But before another word could be exchanged, a sudden commotion erupted from the entrance. A nurse burst through, a whirlwind of urgency and panic. "We need all family members, now!" Rafael glanced at Janine. Fear overshadowed her fire. He could see it etched in her features. "What's going on?" he demanded, worry knotting in his stomach. The nurse barely paused to make eye contact. "We have an emergency situation with Peter." Rafael's heart dropped. Panic surged through him as he and Janine rushed after the nurse, the world outside muffled by the roar of adrenaline. They wove through the chaotic corridors, sharp smells of antiseptic biting at their senses, echoing footsteps pounding into the night. Finally, they stopped at a pair of double doors marked with bright red letters. ICU. Time felt distorted. "Stay here," Rafael commanded, tension radiating from him, but Janine pressed against him, not willing to let him go. "Rafael, I need to be there," she demanded, her eyes fierce, and he couldn't look away from her fire. But just as he resolved to take her with him, the ICU doors swung open with a harsh clang. A doctor stepped out, his face a storm of disbelief. "Is the family of Peter Johnson here?" "I am," Rafael shouted, stepping forward. "Sir, there's been a complication. You need to prepare yourselves." "What's happened?" Janine's voice cracked, desperation clawing her throat. Before the doctor could respond, Rafael heard a loud crash from within the ICU. Shattering glass, followed by a panicked shout. Instinct took over. He lunged past the doctor, pushing through the swinging doors. Inside, chaos reigned. The room was a whirlwind of chanting alarms and frantic nurses. And then, as Rafael approached Peter's bed, his blood turned cold. A figure loomed over Peter, a shadow with a familiar face. It was a woman, dark hair falling around her like a shroud, his son's biological mother. "Get away from him!" Rafael screamed, but she didn't budge. Instead, a cruel smile tugged at her lips, like she had been waiting for this moment, feeding off the tension surrounding them. "Surprise!" she sneered, holding something in her hand, an envelope. "You thought you could leave this life behind, Rafael, but you can't. This family, it's mine." The world blurred around Rafael. Peter's small body lay vulnerable on the bed, and the sound of his heart monitor pulsed in rhythm with Rafael's rising fury. In that moment, time halted. Everything they'd built, every choice, shattered like glass, each piece reflecting a truth he never expected. The ex stepped in, smirking. "Looks like the truth just got a little messier, brother." No. The denial hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. How could this be? Could love born from pain stand against this storm? And there it was, the kernel of fear, the past clawing back, ready to rewrite their lives. The room felt like it was closing in on Rafael. Peter lay there, small and vulnerable, while the woman he dreaded loomed over him, holding that envelope like a trophy. The world blurred and spun. "Get away from my son!" he shouted again, adrenaline surging through him. But the woman just laughed, her eyes dark and filled with a wicked glee. "Did you really think you could escape your past?" she taunted. "Peter is mine too. He belongs to me." Raphael's mind raced as he looked at Janine, her face a mix of anger and despair. "Rafael, we need to get her out of here," she said, stepping closer to him, the fear evident in her voice. "Not a chance, love," the woman hissed, backing away slightly, dragging the envelope closer to Peter. "I have all the power. You think you can build a life here? After everything?" Something shifted in the air. The temperature dropped. Chaos intensified. A nurse clocked the tension and rushed into the room. "What's going on here?" "Megan, she's back," the ex spat. "And she has a claim." Rafael felt as if his feet were glued to the floor. "You have no rights!" he shouted, his voice raw, echoing in the sterile room. Panic clawed at his throat as he glanced at the monitor, steady beeping, making him sick with worry. But before he could react, Megan, the biological mother, raised the envelope higher. "A judge signed this, Rafael. I'm taking him." The air shifted again, a collective gasp tightening from the crowd, gathering just outside the ICU. Curiosity turned to horror. Rafael's heart sank as he glanced around, faces pressed against the glass, eyes wide. One of the nurses, pale and trembling, clutched her throat, trying to reconcile the stunning truths unfolding. With his heart pounding like a war drum, he lunged forward, but the chaos erupted. Nurses rushed in, pushing him back, while Janine shouted, "No! You're not doing this!" And then the unexpected happened. A loud crash filled the room as a blaring alarm pierced through the chaos. Medical equipment began to malfunction. Lights flickered. Raphael's heart skipped. "What's happening?" A doctor burst into the fray, urgency on his face. "We've got a situation. Everyone needs to step back." He moved swiftly between Raphael and the chaos, pushing them toward the door. But Raphael couldn't move. "No, my son!" He fought to get through the wall of nurses. The alarms blared louder now, drowning out the murmurs of shock and whispers of disbelief. And suddenly, something unexpected happened. A huge electricity surge ran through the room, flickering lights momentarily consumed by darkness. When they returned, Raphael's jaw dropped. Where Peter had been lying, there was now nothing. No bed, No monitors, just an empty space and a fading echo of chaos. "Where is he?" Rafael gasped, mind racing. A gasp swept through the gathered crowd. Faint murmurs grew louder. What just happened? Then Janine screamed. "Rafael, look!" He turned back to Megan, and eyes wide with realization. She stood there grinning with a little girl clutching her leg, eyes identical to Peter's. "This is my daughter too, Rafael," Megan said, her voice triumphantly sweet. Rafael's stomach dropped. "What? No, this doesn't make sense." But it was the tone of her voice, the way she held the girl, that turned ice in his veins. "You really thought you could walk away from this? Peter is one, but there's another, and I'll always be here." The crowd erupted into whispers, gasps intertwining with Raphael's racing thoughts, unraveling everything he had thought he knew. Relationships shifted like sand in a storm. The truth had twisted in ways he never conceived. Every choice, every moment flashed before his eyes. "This can't be real." The words slipped out, barely a whisper. "What happens now?" Janine pleaded, hands trembling. Raphael stared into the form of the little girl, horror gripping him tightly, an icy grip on his chest. He was losing everything. The future, the promise, now spiraling into chaos. And as the realization of this shocking truth settled in, Raphael knew that the fight was just beginning. Who would he choose to protect? The room remained shrouded in uncertainty, each heartbeat echoing a painful reminder that the path ahead was riddled with despair. He had no answers, and the shadows of the past loomed larger than he could comprehend. Raphael's heart raced. The empty space where Peter had been felt like a chasm swallowing his hopes. Confusion clouded his mind, choking any coherent thought. The little girl at Megan's side seemed so out of place, a ghost of everything he feared. "Where is he?" He demanded again, his voice breaking with desperation. The cacophony around them faded. All he could hear was the frantic pounding of his own heart. Megan smirked, that twisted smile sending daggers through him. "You really didn't know? You think I'm just some distant memory? He's been mine since the beginning." "Shut up. You don't get to come in here and claim." A commotion burst through the door. A swarm of doctors flooded into the room, faces serious and grim. They brushed past Raphael and Janine, urgency crackling like electricity in the air. "Step back. Give us space," one shouted, trying to wrestle control of the chaos. Raphael felt himself shoved aside, the walls closing in. "Raphael!" Janine's voice brought him back. "What's happening?" But he couldn't pull his gaze from Megan and the girl beside her. They were grinning. It was as if they shared a secret, a burden that had been hidden from him until now. "What do you mean, your daughter, Megan?" Janine questioned, confusion mingling with anger. "You're lying!" Megan shrugged, her laughter cold. "Believe what you want, sweetie. This little lady is as much Raphael's blood as Peter is." Raphael reeled back, the weight of her words pressing down like a vice. "That's impossible!" he gasped. The pieces were swirling, colliding in a chaotic storm of panic and disbelief. Before he could wrestle through it all, the atmosphere thickened. Suddenly, the lights in the ICU flickered violently, casting erratic shadows on the startled faces. A loud bang echoed, followed by an energy surge that made the monitor screens blink wildly. Everyone paused, glued to their spots. Then, in a moment that felt like it stretched into eternity, the air crackled, and the lights went completely out. Darkness swallowed the room, trembling with the hushed breaths of frightened onlookers. A loud crash shattered the stillness. "Get down!" someone shouted from the chaos. Rafael instinctively dropped to the ground, grasping Janine's hand tightly. As the lights flickered back on, the room was transformed. The hospital gleamed, but Peter was gone. In his place stood a tall figure, shrouded by a dark silhouette, with a face that made Rafael's blood run cold. No, it couldn't be. You, he rasped, his throat tight as he recognized the imposing figure, one who had haunted him through his darkest days. It was someone he thought he'd never see again. Megan's expression shifted, from smug satisfaction to sheer terror, in an instant. "No, this wasn't part of the plan," she stammered, backing away defensively. Rafael pushed forward, heart pounding in his ears. "What are you doing here?" The man stepped forward, revealing a face etched with a dangerous grin. "Thought you could leave this life behind, huh? Guess again." The world around Rafael blurred as panic unfurled inside him. Was this really happening? This couldn't just be part of some twisted game. "People don't just disappear," the figure continued, voice smooth as silk. "And neither do secrets. It's time for the truth, Rafael. And trust me, it's darker than you think." Janine gasped, fingers trembling in Rafael's grip. "Rafael? Who is he?" "Someone from my past," he whispered, feeling the walls of his carefully rebuilt life teetering dangerously. In that moment, everything crystallized. Family, love, betrayal. The lines blurred, twisted by a truth that threatened to swallow them whole. "Stand back," a doctor yelled. The tension thrummed in the air, but Rafael felt frozen, rooted to the spot, the weight of revelation crashing down on him like a flood. Time to choose sides. The shadow smirked. And suddenly, it felt like the ground beneath Rafael's feet was crumbling. Because this fight, it's far from over. As silence fell, a chilling truth echoed in Rafael's mind. They were all ensnared in a game much bigger than they ever imagined. The stakes had risen, and now he had to decide who to trust. But how could he, when every face around him held secrets? Rafael stood there, the weight of Megan's words sinking in, as shadows danced around in chaotic patterns. The figure, dark and imposing, held the attention of everyone in the room. His heart raced. Uncertainty crackled in the air. "Who are you?" Rafael demanded, trying to break the tension. Every muscle in his body was tense, ready to explode. He needed to protect Peter, protect Janine, but fear threatened to paralyze him. The stranger stepped forward, revealing a face Rafael recognized but had tried to bury deep in his past. "Jonathan," he said with a sneer, "thought you could forget me. You made that mistake once." Everyone gasped. Voices whispered through the crowd like a gust of wind. Disbelief hung thick in the air. "You should have stayed hidden, man." Rafael shot back, his voice trembling but fierce. Jonathan shrugged, a cocky grin plastered on his face. "Did you think I wouldn't come back for what's mine?" Before Rafael could process the words, the lights flickered again, casting eerie shadows across the room. Panic surged among the nurses and doctors. "Get out! Get out now!" a voice shouted, urgency emanating from every corner. But as everyone turned to flee, a massive crash echoed from the ceiling. Suddenly, tiles began to fall. Dust and debris filled the air like dark confetti. Rafael ducked instinctively, while Janine shielded her face with her hands. "Look out!" someone yelled, and then a loud bang reverberated. Amid the chaos, a figure stumbled into the room. It was a woman, frantic, eyes wild with fear. Dressed in hospital scrubs, she clutched a blood-soaked cloth against her arm, looking like she had just escaped a nightmare. "They're coming!" she shouted, voice desperate, alarm painting her features. Raphael's heart dropped. "Who's coming?" "No time to explain. We have to get out." She moved toward them, her breath ragged. Behind her, footsteps thundered down the corridor, heavy boots echoing ominously. Megan's expression morphed into pure shock and fear. "What is happening?" The doctor, who had been in charge earlier, raced toward the door, eyes darting around. "This isn't safe. Everyone stay together." But the crowd buzzed with confusion, voices rising in panic. And then it hit like a thunderbolt. Jonathan took a step back, his facade cracking. "This isn't part of the plan." Just as the atmosphere thickened with danger, the lights flickered one last time and then went out. Silence enveloped the room, broken only by the sounds of panicked breaths and the distant echo of hurried footsteps. In the stillness, Raphael saw a shock of golden hair. It was a boy, the spitting image of Peter. The child moved toward Jonathan, reaching his tiny hands out. "Daddy?" The air froze. Raphael's heart stopped. Every ounce of blood drained from his face. "What did you just say?" The boy's innocent eyes sparkled with fear and confusion. "Daddy?" he repeated, his voice a whisper drowned out by the impending chaos. Megan, still reeling, staggered back. "No, you can't be—" "Yes!" Jonathan roared, his bravado re-entering as he knelt beside the boy. "He's mine, too!" Just like Peter, Raphael's head spun, his world had flipped upside down. Every truth he believed shattered. This was not just about Peter anymore. This was a reckoning. The realization hit harder than any blow. Everything he had fought for, every choice made, now tangled in a web of lies. As the chaos intensified, Raphael felt a new sense of urgency. He had to figure this out as the shouting erupted around him. A crushing truth buried itself deep. How could a family built on such a foundation survive? The surroundings spiraled into a blur. The next choice would change everything, unleashing danger, doubt, and perhaps even more painful revelations. Could he still protect what mattered most? Or had the past intertwined too tightly with the present, leaving them all stranded in a storm of secrets? Raphael stood frozen. The chaos faded, and the boy's innocent eyes pierced through him like arrows. "Daddy?" echoed in his mind, looping around each jagged thought, each flicker of doubt. He felt Janine squeeze his hand, but the world swirling around them grew heavy. "What did you just say?" Raphael's voice cracked, desperate for answers as if uncovering a buried truth. Megan smiled, smug and triumphant. "Isn't it sweet? You didn't think I'd just let you walk away with Peter, did you? This is my leverage." Suddenly, the beeping of machines transformed into an unsettling symphony of alarms. The ceiling flickered ominously. Shadows danced wildly on the walls as if the very building sensed the tension. "Raphael!" Janine shook him, eyes wide. "What are we doing? We need to get out of here!" Before he could respond, Jonathan surged forward, claiming the boy's small hands. "This is the perfect family reunion!" His voice dripped with malice. "Get away from him!" Rafael shouted, lunging forward. But the sight of Jonathan smirking made him think back to nightmares he'd tried to forget. Without warning, the ICU doors burst open, revealing a group of police officers. "Step back! We're here to take her in," one officer barked, pointing at Megan. "Megan, they're coming for you!" someone shouted, whispering about her past. Panic erupted. "What?" Megan screamed. "You can't—" Then, without warning, the lights went out, plunging the room into darkness. A collective gasp reverberated through the crowd. Heavy footsteps echoed, chaos engulfing the space. The sound of a chair toppling, followed by frantic whispers, sent shivers down Rafael's spine. "Rafael!" "What's happening?" Janine's voice was shaky, filled with urgency. A spotlight flickered back to life, illuminating the room, but with it came a shocking sight. The boy clinging to Jonathan wasn't just a ghost from Rafael's past. He stood with someone else, a girl identical to Peter. "Surprise!" Megan shouted, victory lighting up her face. "Meet Lily, my other child!" Reality twisted. Hope plummeted. Rafael felt sick, his limbs heavy. "No, this can't be!" The world around him spun, caught in a cyclone of disbelief. Jonathan stepped back slightly. "Looks like your family tree just got a little more complicated, Rafael." Gasps erupted from the crowd. The nurses exchanged horrified glances. Whispers filled the sterile room like smoke. Rafael glanced at Janine. Fierce determination replaced by confusion and fear. "Two kids? How can this be?" she pleaded, voice trembling. Jonathan leaned closer to Megan, sharing a triumphant grin. "And there's more. We're all connected. A little family reunion courtesy of our pasts." Panic clawed at Rafael's throat. "I don't care about your twisted games." His heart raced as the reality set in. The woman he thought he was protecting now held pieces of his life, a puzzle he had never signed up for. "Too late," Jonathan sneered. "You can't escape blood ties." The sound of approaching sirens filled the air, merging with the growing chaos. Everything felt surreal, spinning. Rafael gasped, realizing that his world had been forever altered. Janine nudged closer, sensing the storm brewing. "Rafael, we need to make a choice. Can we face this together?" But before he could respond, the lights blared back on with a vengeance. The tension hung thick, palpable, every face in the room a canvas of shock and curiosity. "Enough!" shouted an authoritative voice. A figure stepped through the blur of chaos, face hidden under a cap, but the air shifted. "This ends now." Megan turned paler than before as Rafael's heart sank. The figure moved to reveal a badge glinting in the stark light. "I said this ends." Just then, a piercing scream cut through the noise. Rafael's head snapped towards the source, eyes wide. Was that Peter? What now? The question hung in the air, a harbinger of another impossible revelation. The room held its breath. Secrets, dark as night, trembled on the lips of those present. This fight was far from over. The urgency of choices loomed, wrapping around them like a tight knot, begging to be unraveled. Rafael stood in shock as the chaos swirled around him. The police officer's voice echoed in his mind. cutting through the confusion like a knife. All eyes were on Jonathan and Megan, the tension hanging thick in the air. The fear was palpable, each heartbeat sounding like a war drum. "What now?" Rafael muttered, hardly recognizing the strain in his own voice. Janine kept glancing between him and the figures that could unravel everything they'd fought for. Then a voice broke through the clamor, startling everyone. It was Peter, his voice weak but clear. "Dad?" He stood at the doorway, eyes wide, unsure if he should approach or retreat. Raphael's heart leaped. There was his boy, fragile yet defiant. Relief swept through him like a wave. But the moment was short-lived. Just behind Peter stood a woman, someone Raphael hadn't seen in years, her presence a heavy layer of dark clouds. It was Sarah, the one who had left him behind all those years ago, the one whose departure had haunted him, filling him with questions and regret. "Peter, sweetheart, come here," Sarah called, her voice trembling, but there was a desperate urgency woven into her words. Megan turned, eyes wide with incredulity. "You?" Sarah stepped forward, pushing through the group like a startled deer, eyes locked onto Peter. "I'm sorry, I had to come. I didn't know," she gasped, cheeks wet with tears. Raphael's world flipped again. His stomach dropped. "What do you mean you didn't know?" His voice rose, catching in his throat. "Mommy!" Peter's small voice was a lifeline, and he ran into Sarah's arms. For a moment, it was all hugs and weeping. But Raphael felt frozen, his mind racing. What was happening? "Wait!" he shouted, but the chaos erupted anew. Jonathan grabbed Peter's arm instinctively, pulling him close, as if claiming a prize. "You can't do this!" Raphael shouted, fists clenched. The air around them changed, electric with tension, as Sarah's expression hardened. "You don't get to protect him. He's my son." "What?" Raphael recoiled, confusion turning to anger, then to disbelief. "You can't just come back and take him. You left!" The accusations tumbled out, raw and uncontrolled. "No, I left because it was the only choice I had," Sarah shot back, voice sharp. "And I've always been a part of this. You knew that. How could you do this without telling me?" Raphael looked at Janine, whose eyes were wide with shock, silently pleading for clarity amidst the chaos. "You thought this was over?" Jonathan sneered, eyes glinting with a twisted satisfaction. "This is just the beginning. They're not your kids, Raphael. They belong to all of us." Raphael's heart pounded. Every word felt like a slap. His own children, a secret all along. As the gravity of their past collided, the tension spiraled. The room buzzed with whispers and gasps, a dawning realization circling among the crowd. "No!" Raphael's voice faded into disbelief. The connections threaded deep, blood ties twisting through heartbreak, fear, anger, and love. What he fought was a rebuilt life, was tangled in lies. Suddenly, a loud crash reverberated from the far end of the hallway. In a flash, a group of masked figures stormed through the corridor, brandishing badges and guns. "Everyone stay down!" one shouted, sending the crowd spiraling into screams. "Get back!" Raphael shouted, instincts kicking in as he shielded Janine, grabbing Peter and pulling him close. But the chaos surged. The world spun wildly, fear replacing clarity. "Raphael!" Janine shouted, eyes wide with terror. "What do we do?" But as he looked around, everything he thought he knew shattered. Trust evaporated. Choices. Jonathan grinned, eyes glinting like steel. You're gonna have to make a lot of them. And just then, the room plunged into turmoil again, and the truth felt more complicated than ever. Nothing had prepared him for this moment, and nothing would ever be the same again. Rafael stood there, frozen in disbelief. The room was a storm. Shouts, alarms blaring, fear gripping everyone. But when he looked at Peter, confusion filled the boy's big eyes. He didn't know what danger was closing in. He just wanted to understand. "Daddy?" Peter called out again, reaching for him. Every instinct screamed to protect his child, to shield him from the unfolding nightmare. But the weight of the unexpected hit harder than he could handle. "Get behind me, Peter!" he shouted, but the sound of boots pounding against the tiled floors drowned out his command. Janine stood close, eyes wide and full of terror. "Rafael, what do we do?" As if answering her unspoken question, Jonathan took a step toward the boy, looming like a dark cloud. "You think you can keep them forever?" he taunted. "Soon, you'll all realize who truly owns these kids." Megan laughed, teeth flashing like daggers. "This is just the beginning. Don't you understand? The game's just starting." The lights flickered again, hinting at chaos ready to boil over. But just then, something remarkable happened. A loud crash cut through the tension. The doors burst open, and an officer shouted, "Everyone down!" Rafael instinctively shoved Peter and Janine to the ground as chaos erupted again. Screams echoed. People ducked and covered their heads. The figure from the doorway grabbed Rafael's attention, but it wasn't in the uniform of authority. No, it was someone else, someone he never expected. "Stop!" Rachel, his long-lost childhood friend, cried, rushing in. Her face was pale, eyes wild with determination. "Everyone, you can't do this!" Raphael's heart sank. "Rachel, what are you doing here?" "They're not who you think they are!" she yelled, breathless from running, her voice cutting through the noise like a knife. "They're using you!" Megan recoiled, shock coloring her face. "What do you know?" Rachel took a step closer, fearless. "I know about the plan. I've been watching. It's bigger than just Rafael. They're after the kids for more than just revenge. You don't understand what's really at stake." The room fell eerily quiet. Confusion painting every face. "What plan?" Rafael pressed, eyes darting between Rachel and the escalating chaos. As if her words held some sort of power, a different fear washed over the crowd. The air thickened. "I can't explain," Rachel panted, but desperation made her words urgent. "You have to trust me. They came for more than just custody. They want the legacy." "Legacy?" Rafael frowned, feeling lost. "Yeah," she erupted, eyes fierce. "The Johnson name, they're using Peter and Lily to manipulate you into giving up everything you have worked for. Everything." The chilling realization hit Rafael harder than any blow. This wasn't just about being a father or protecting his family. There were larger stakes at hand, tangled up in betrayals and bloodlines. Just then, in the midst of the turmoil, the lights flickered one final time before plunging the entire room into darkness. Shadows loomed. Silence draped like a heavy blanket. Hearts raced as they waited for what would come next. And then a blinding light erupted, brighter than anything they'd seen, and in that instant the face of the child, his son, was lost in the glare. "Dad!" Peter's voice cut through the chaos, panicked and teetering on the edge, but Rafael couldn't see him. He couldn't think. When the light faded, the scene before him felt surreal. The ICU transformed, walls distorted, and in that moment, Jonathan and Megan stood beside a glowing portal, a doorway to everything they had feared, a space that twisted reality. "I'm here for what's rightfully mine!" Raphael's breath caught. The world crumbled again. Everything, every choice, every moment bloomed into chaos. This wasn't just a fight for his family. This was a collision course with fate, and nothing would ever be the same again. The tension surged, hearts thudded. Could they face what was unfolding? The connections, the betrayal. Was it all part of a game much larger than they understood? The truth was shattering, and Raphael felt the weight of it all crashing down on him, straining against the pull of his choices. Their world had turned upside down, and he could only hold on tight. Raphael felt the tension crack in the air. The figure that emerged from the glowing portal wasn't just a ghost from the past. It was his long-lost father, the man who left him shattered, resurfacing to claim what he thought he had lost forever. Time seemed to freeze. "Dad?" Raphael choked out, disbelief gripping his heart. The man smiled, shadows swirling around him. "Raphael, I've come to set things right." Megan and Jonathan exchanged worried glances, realizing quickly that this was beyond their understanding. "Get back!" Raphael shouted, stepping in front of Peter and Janine. His heart raced, a primal rush surging through him. "You don't get to decide what this family is anymore." The crowd buzzed with whispers. Some watched in horror, others in fascination. "What's happening?" Someone murmured. "Enough!" Raphael's voice boomed, silencing the chaos. He looked directly at his father. "You can't just walk back in after all these years and think everything is fine." The room seemed to echo his words, a sharp intake of breath from all around. "But son, son!" Raphael's voice trembled, pain surfacing like a tide. "You gave up your right to call me that when you left." The air thickened with unspoken truths. The light flickered again, slashing through their silhouettes. Raphael could feel Janine's tension beside him, each heartbeat echoing in harmony with the growing chaos. "Raphael, we can work this out," his father pressed, eyes pleading. "Work what out?" Raphael's chest tightened. "You ran away. You broke us." Just then, a distant siren wailed through the chaos, urging them to run. "Look," Janine pointed, holding Peter tight. "We have to get out." But Megan stepped forward, defiant. "What about our kids, Raphael? What would you do for them?" With renewed fire, Raphael turned back to his family. "I'll do whatever it takes." "I'm not losing anyone again." A glimmer of hope sparked in Janine's eyes. Together, they could face this. Suddenly, the masked figures burst into the room, weapons drawn. "Everyone on the ground!" the lead shouted, urgency slicing through the air. Megan's eyes flared with fear. "This isn't what I wanted." Raphael realized he had to make a choice. "Stand firm," he ordered everyone. "We protect each other, no matter what." He dashed toward the chaos, Janine right behind him, clinging to Peter. Raphael faced the masked figures with trembling determination, refusing to let fear break him. He wasn't going to lose his family. Not again. As the tension hit a fever pitch and Rafael prepared to fight for everything he cherished, he suddenly felt a gentle tug on his shirt. He looked down to see Peter, eyes wide with innocence and hope. "Dad, I believe in you." And in that moment, a bolt of strength coursed through Rafael. He fought back fear. No longer just a man who had faced loss. He was a father, ready to fight for love, laughter, and the life they deserved. The masked figures hesitated, confusion morphing into uncertainty. The love radiating from Rafael's family pierced through their chaos. Suddenly, the room erupted with light. The figures stumbled back, disoriented. Rafael took a step forward, grounding himself in the moment. "You all have a choice to make. We stand together or fall apart." The room grew silent, the weight of his words hanging thick. As they waited, hearts pounding, a new hope flickered in the shadows. But whether the storm had passed or would sweep them all away remained a mystery. As the vibrations of laughter and cries filled the air, a new chapter awaited, one heavy with promise, but echoing still with uncertainty. And just like that, it was time for you to choose your own adventure. You must subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss out on all the exclusive stories coming up next. Smash that like button and let the algorithm know you're with us. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this finale. We want to hear from you. Don't wait 1 second longer to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this ending. Your support means everything